Hello, welcome to video 4 of the verbal reasoning section of the UCAT My EdSpace series. I'm Eleanor and we will be looking at information retrieval, which is a type of free text questions on the verbal reasoning section. I'm a teacher at My EdSpace, specifically an English teacher, and I will be running the verbal reasoning section videos and resources for you. So if you've seen any of the other videos on this section, you will know some of this. I'll repeat myself just in case this is your first time looking at our content. The free text question sets follow a similar format to the true, false, can't tell question sets. Those are the two options of question sets that you have for the verbal reasoning section. It's based on the contents of a 250 to 400 word passage or the conclusions or inferences that can be drawn from it without any outside information. Passages are on the left-hand side and questions are on the right-hand side. For each, there are 11 question sets, 44 questions, 22 minutes for all questions. That means 28.6 seconds per question, which is not a lot of time. Time is definitely your enemy in this section, so you need to be really intentional and efficient with your time in this section. Free text questions are usually 7 to 9 of the question sets, so 28 to 36 of the free text of the questions are free text questions in total in this section of the exam. They're asking you to either complete a statement with the logical or most correct ending phrase, or to answer the question from a set of 4 full answers. They're also asking you to make a value judgment based on the information you're given in the passage and what you can logically conclude from it. Today we'll be looking at the information retrieval type of question in a free text question set. These are the types of questions that find specific facts or details stated directly in the text. So you'll be looking for details. This will mean a lot of keywords and clue words you're looking for in your answers. It means you'll be looking for the information presented, answering detailed questions about it, attention to detail, ability to synthesize and summarize the information you are given. These are the types of questions that fall into this category. So main reason for something, why it's considered important, what was it offered, what role did it play, when did it first debut, what allowed or prevented something from doing something, what city was named or associated with an idea or a movement or a time period. When was it produced, initiated, founded? What of the following contributed to it? Where is it most commonly found, produced, or used? Which of the following statement best describes it? So literally a synthesis or summary question there. An intended benefit or a key feature of. This is seeing if you know what this idea actually is and what defines it. Which of the following is not? So the contrast there, the opposite, which of these is not? So you would imagine the other 3 options are contributors to or factors of something. Which of the following was true or not true? Why did something do something? So introduce it, cancel it, inhibit it, promote it, etc. What does the text say about this, and what is mentioned or not mentioned as an impact? So that's looking for the consequences, the causal relationships, for which we know causation is not correlation. Some common pitfalls for this type of question: paraphrasing and synonyms. Especially if you're looking for very specific details, you may think that if you can't see that specific word, that it then is not the right answer, but you need to be mindful that your keywords may be summarized, paraphrased. There may be another word swapped out just to trick you who are not being eagle-eyed in your scanning of the passage. There's also a possibility of the dispersion of keywords. So if you've got a really good keyword that pops up once, twice, 3 times in a passage, be careful that you're clocking every time that it comes up, because later in the passage something may contradict the previous mention of it. That's the same with mitigation and contradiction. One part of the passage may appear to contradict the other. You need to be mindful of what the question is asking you and where you are getting your deciding answer. Correlation is not causation. You're looking for bridging phrases that link 2 sentences together, like however, consequently, as a result, because of. If not, some of those statements might be next to each other, but they might be juxtaposed. So they might be literally one after the other, and your brain may, in reading or skimming, conclude that there is a relationship between the contents of each sentence, but that is not necessarily the case and is often a pitfall in this type of question in verbal reasoning. You'll also want to be mindful of gaps in information that require conclusions, especially in those types of questions where you're asked which is not one option. That makes you have to look for information that's not there, which requires you to read a little bit more around to see what options actually are presented, and then make your conclusion on which one is not. Let's take a look at some examples. So again, modeling what we want to see in the exam, which is you using the question to answer, to read the passage or to skim the passage. So when does the Eiffel Tower? We may think immediately that that's a great key word. 2 capital letters, it might stand out. But even a very, very brief look at this shows you how many times Eiffel or tower come up. We want to be mindful that might not be our best key word here for this. So it's starting to point us to places in the text, but we want to be mindful there may be a better keyword here. When did the Eiffel Tower lose its title as the world's tallest man-made structure here? We want to look for world's tallest man-made structure. I think particularly the word man-made will be helpful because it's hyphenated, so it might draw our attention slightly better in a passage as we skim. Okay, we are skimming this passage now. We're seeing it was the tallest man-made structure here until the completion of the Chrysler Building in New York in 1930. So that gives us a pretty good indicator of what the answer is, that it might be D, 1930, but let's keep skimming just in case. Initially criticized, okay. Innovation and potential. Later on it was used. Its survival beyond draws millions of visitors. Okay, so that looks like our right answer, but I do want to point out as well that you might also attack this question by looking at the numbers, because you would imagine that these numbers may appear in the text, and you would be right in a way because we do see numbers in the text. We see quite a few. We see 1889, we see a 300, we see 1930. If we keep skimming, World War I isn't a number, but it certainly has years attached to it. 20-year lifespan, be careful, because that is not written out as a number, but still absolutely falls under one. And millions as well, millions of visitors. We also have today there, which is another time word, so we want to be mindful of that. When did it lose its title? Okay, 1889 is when it was built for the exhibition, so that's nope. Let's actually use our pen to cross that out. Let's cross that out. Nope. 1914, that wasn't a number that appeared. That falls under World War I here, when that was going on, which was when it was used, but certainly not when it lost its man-made structure. 1929 is close to that 1930, but the building wasn't completed until 1930, so that's the only information that we know, that that was when it officially became taller and lost its title, or the Chrysler Building won the title of world's tallest man-made structure. 1929 seems like a distractor. That leads us to our obvious answer, D, 1930. Question 2. What allowed the Eiffel Tower to remain standing beyond its intended lifespan? Okay, so remaining standing, intended lifespan. I think lifespan might be a good one because we won't see that so much. It's quite an unusual word to have in a passage about buildings. Okay, as we read, let's take a look here. Okay, I can see it was, oops, bear with for my highlighter. It was originally intended as a temporary structure to commemorate the centenary took over 2 years to complete. One of the world's most recognized landmarks, initially criticized. It was defended for its potential in innovation in science. It was used over the years. That seems quite important there, why it was used, possibly a reason why it was kept rather than just as an exhibition. And here we go, we're seeing some of these key words now, including the word 20-year lifespan and the phrase communication technology. So this is one way that I am being guided now to that phrasing in communication technology here, and its role there, in its lifespan, because all of that is in the same sentence. Let's cross out why these ones are not. You could have also absolutely gone through to the questions and options first, but lifespan was such a good little word there that it really drew us right to the one time it appeared. Its popularity with tourists, we know that it has tourists here, millions of visitors as tourists, but that doesn't seem to be a reason why it was allowed to remain standing. It seems to be a kind of correlated benefit. Its potential as a scientific laboratory, we know that Gustave Eiffel did say that it had potential as a scientific laboratory, but notice this juxtaposition here. It doesn't say that that's why it was preserved. So this is potential, but seems to be lacking a bridging phrase that would link its potential with what actually happened here and here with its communication technology. And then D, Gustave Eiffel's defense of the tower. This again is very similar to C in that yes, he defended it, but that doesn't seem like it was particularly the reason it was kept. It seems like its usefulness here was the reason it was kept. So D, no, leads us to B here, its role in communication technology. Now, if it said it was only due to its role in communication technology, that would be a different question, because notice this here. This mitigating word partly is dangerous here because it means that there were other reasons, possibly its potential as a laboratory, partly because it was loved, partly because of the defense, partly because of its tourist popularity here as well. But because it says partly, we can say that's one of the reasons why it was remaining standing, and indeed is our answer here. Careful of those mitigating and definitive words. Let's look at question 3. One reason that some artists opposed the Eiffel Tower's construction was that. Okay, so we're looking for artists opposing the construction. It was shortly replaced by the Chrysler Building as the tallest building. I'm not sure if that was a reason. We know the Chrysler Building is somewhere here. We'll come back to that. It was made by an engineering company. We know it was. Does that a reason why? We'll make sure we look back. Something to do with engineering. It was considered incompatible with the city's architecture. Those seem like some good keywords to keep out a look for. And it was considered inappropriate to commemorate the centenary. We know that it was built for this. Let's take a look at where that happens here. So, at the beginning, we're scanning through. It was built to commemorate it. It doesn't say that's why people objected. We can see that the engineering company designed it, Gustave Eiffel's engineering company designed it, and that it took 2 years to complete, but it doesn't seem like that has anything to do with why people opposed it. We can also see that it was the tallest structure until the Chrysler Building, but again, this is information that is standing on its own. It doesn't seem to be connected to, as we're scanning for criticized or opposed, an artist. Here we go, we've got artists here. and it seems that these artists criticized, that sounds like opposed, who saw it as an eyesore that clashed with the architecture in Paris. So 3 key words there lead us right to the correct answer, which is that it was considered incompatible, another word for an eyesore that clashed with the city's architecture there. These other ones are all facts in some cases, in that it was replaced and that it was made by an engineering company, or conjecture, opinion, but none of these link to why the artist in particular opposed it. It was because it was an eyesore compared to Paris's architecture. That links us straight to C. Some tips and tricks for free text questions. Practice time sessions. This is important because time is your biggest opponent. You need to get familiar with the timing and how you time yourself. You do not want to read the whole passage. That will take, on average, at least 11 of your 22 precious minutes to answer the questions, and that's without having addressed a single question. So instead, you need to read the statement before reading the passage. This will help you notice the keywords, give you a lens through which you'll be able to more easily notice relevant information. It will save you time. You need to make educated guesses through the process of elimination, because even if you eliminate one option, you have a higher probability of getting the right answer. Focus on the wrong answers. What do you know is wrong? They're often easier to spot than the correct answer, because the correct answer is often a little bit hidden. Answer every question. There's no negative marking in the verbal reasoning section, so that means you get no points for not answering a question, but you have the potential of getting points for any mark you make for each question. You don't lose points for answering wrongly. So there's no harm in going to try and get through all of the questions, even if you don't have the time to make sure you're right on each one. What's crucial is to use the flag and review flag questions features to your advantage. If you're not sure, but you realize you may be getting close to your 28.6 second limit of how much you should be spending on each question, then you want to flag the question, Alt F, and move on. You'll have the option at the end to review all flagged questions, and that will mean you don't have to go through all 44 and keep clicking through, wasting valuable seconds, but rather be guided straight to the questions that you need to review, and to make sure that you get that extra moment to review them. Use the time you gained on true, false, and can't tell questions that don't have 4 options you have to read through, and don't have and have 3 options rather than 4. This takes a little bit less time, so you have more time to focus on your free text questions. That brings us to the end of this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I will see you in the next free text video. Bye for now.